You can feel it instantly. Some people walk into a room and without saying much everything shifts. No loud entrance. No forced charm. No trying too hard. Yet people notice. Conversations soften around them. Eyes stay a little longer. And when they leave, something about them lingers. So what is it? Because it's not looks. It's not status. And it's definitely not the endless tricks people keep teaching online. Here's what you'll discover in the next few minutes. 6 quiet habits rooted in Stoic wisdom that make people naturally drawn to you without you chasing attention, forcing conversations, or pretending to be someone else. These are not tactics. They are transformations. And if you stay to the end, you'll understand why the less you try to impress people, the more unforgettable you become. Before we go deeper, type "quiet strength" in the comments. Not for me, but as a signal to yourself that you're ready to stop performing and start becoming. Let's be honest for a second. You've tried to be more interesting, more impressive, more noticeable. Maybe you've studied what to say, how to act, how to carry yourself. Maybe you've even had moments where it worked. People laughed. People paid attention. For a while. But then it faded. And you were back to feeling like you had to try again. Harder this time. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The more you chase attention, the more you repel it. Because people can feel it. That subtle need. That quiet desperation. That pressure to be liked. People feel it and it drains your presence. We live in a world that teaches you to add more. More personality. More energy. More performance. But the Stoics understood something deeper. Attraction doesn't come from addition. It comes from removal. Remove the need to impress. Remove the noise. Remove the constant self-monitoring of how you're being perceived. What remains is something rare. A grounded presence. A calm certainty. A quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. And in a world full of noise that becomes magnetic, you don't have to become someone else. You just have to stop hiding behind who you're not. And there are 6 habits that build this kind of presence from the inside out. The first one is something almost no one does anymore, but when you master it, everything about how people experience you begins to change. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This is simple, but almost no one lives by it. Think about your last conversation. Were you fully there, or were you waiting for your turn? Were you actually listening or just preparing what to say next? Most people don't listen. They reload. They treat conversations like performances. Every word they hear is just a setup for what they want to say next. And because of that, conversations feel empty. But something different happens when you truly listen. Not just hearing words, but being present. You stop checking your phone. You stop thinking ahead. You stop trying to impress. And you give the other person your full attention. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Because you're not used to being still. But then something shifts. The person in front of you feels it. Immediately. Their tone changes. Their guard drops. They begin to open up in ways they didn't plan to. Because your presence feels safe. And safety creates connection. This is the first quiet habit. Deep listening. Not as a trick, but as a discipline. When you listen like this, you do something most people never experience. You make someone feel seen. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be interesting, you become unforgettable. Because people don't remember how impressive you sounded. They remember how you made them feel. And the person who truly listens makes people feel important. That's rare. That's attractive. That's quiet power. If you're still watching, stay with me, because the second habit is where most people lose their composure, and the few who don't become impossible to ignore. The second habit reveals itself when things don't go your way. When plans fall apart. When someone disrespects you. When life applies pressure. This is where most people lose everything they've built. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. But look around. A small inconvenience ruins someone's entire mood. A single comment throws them off balance. One unexpected problem and they spiral. You can see it in their face. In their tone. In their reactions. And in those moments, something about them weakens. Because emotional instability repels trust. But then there's the rare person. The one who doesn't react immediately. The one who pauses. The one who absorbs the moment without letting it control them. And suddenly everyone notices. Not because they're loud. But because they're steady. The second habit is inner calm. Not the absence of chaos but control within it. You practice this in small ordinary moments. Traffic slows you down and you breathe instead of complaining. Someone interrupts you and you let them finish instead of competing. Things don't go as planned and you adjust instead of collapsing. Each time you choose calm over reaction, you build something invisible. A kind of inner stability. And people feel it. When you carry that calm into a room, it changes the atmosphere. Others relax around you. Conversations feel lighter. Situations feel more manageable. Because you're not adding to the chaos, you're grounding it. And in a world where most people are easily shaken, the one who remains steady becomes magnetic. People trust them. People respect them. People want to be around them. Not because they entertain, but because they stabilize. And that kind of presence is rare. Stay with me because the third habit is even more counterintuitive. It's not about what you say. It's about what you choose not to say. Seneca warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And a lot of that suffering comes from unnecessary words. Think about how often people speak just to fill silence. To avoid awkwardness. To prove something. To stay relevant in the conversation. But the more someone talks without intention, the less people actually listen. Their words lose weight. Their presence becomes noise. Now think about someone who speaks less, but when they do everyone pays attention. They don't rush to respond. They don't interrupt. They don't over-explain. They wait. They observe. And when they speak it lands. This third habit is purposeful speech. Before you say anything, you ask yourself quietly. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? If not, you let it pass. And then something powerful begins to happen. You become comfortable with silence. Not the awkward kind, but the confident kind. The kind that says, you don't need constant validation. You don't need to fill space to prove your worth. You're grounded enough to let moments breathe. And that changes how people perceive you. Because when you finally speak, your words carry intention. They carry clarity. They carry weight. People lean in. They remember. Because you've trained them to know that when you speak, it matters. And that restraint, that control, that quiet discipline. It creates authority without effort. If this is making sense to you, don't skip ahead. Because the fourth habit is where everything gets tested. It's easy to stay calm when life is smooth. But what happens when it isn't? That's where real attraction is built. The fourth habit only reveals itself when life becomes uncomfortable. When things don't go your way. When you're tested. When something hits you that you didn't plan for. This is where most people break. They complain. They avoid. They look for someone to blame. They turn their struggle into a story about why they can't move forward. And while that's human, it also pushes people away. Because people are not drawn to constant helplessness. They are drawn to quiet resilience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacle isn't blocking your path. It is the path. But most people don't see it that way. They see difficulty as something unfair. Something personal. Something that shouldn't be happening to them. And that mindset weakens them. But the person who faces difficulty differently. The one who doesn't collapse. The one who feels the pressure but still stands. That person becomes something rare. This fourth habit is courage in adversity. Not loud bravery. Not pretending things don't hurt. But the quiet decision to keep moving forward, even when it would be easier to stop. You practice this in moments most people overlook. When something frustrates you, you don't lash out. When something scares you, you don't run immediately. When something fails, you don't turn it into an excuse. You stay with it. You face it. You grow through it. And people notice. They watch how you respond when things are not easy. They see that you don't crumble under pressure. You adapt. You adjust. You keep your composure. And that inspires something in them. Because if you can handle difficulty without losing yourself, they feel like maybe they can too. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Every challenge you face is shaping you. And when you carry yourself with that understanding, you stop seeing struggle as something to escape. You start seeing it as something that builds you. And that energy, that quiet strength under pressure, it draws people in. Because in an unstable world, someone who can remain steady in hardship feels like solid ground. Stay with me, because the fifth habit is where everything becomes real. Because you can listen well, stay calm, speak with intention, and still lack the one thing that makes people truly trust you. And without it, none of the others fully work. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's where we're going next. The fifth habit is the one people can feel even when you say nothing. Because it answers a silent question everyone asks the moment they meet you. Can I trust this person? Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Not appear like one. Not sound like one. Not perform like one. Be one." This fifth habit is integrity. And it's simpler than most people think, but harder than most people live. It's alignment. Between what you say and what you do. Between who you are in public and who you are in private. Between your values and your actions. Most people are slightly out of alignment. They say one thing, but act differently when it's inconvenient. They present confidence, but internally feel uncertain. They speak about honesty, but bend the truth when it benefits them. And even if people can't explain it, they feel it. That subtle inconsistency. That quiet disconnect. And it creates distance. Because inconsistency breaks trust. But when you live with integrity, something shifts. You become the same person everywhere. There's no performance to maintain. No mask to adjust. No version of yourself to switch between. And that removes a kind of internal tension most people carry every day. You stop trying to manage how people see you. You simply act in alignment with who you are. If you say you'll do something, you do it. If you believe in something, you stand by it. If you make a mistake, you own it. No excuses. No performance. No hiding. And that creates something rare. Which is reliability. People begin to relax around you. Because they don't have to guess who you are. They don't have to question your intentions. They don't have to read between the lines. What they see is what they get. And in a world full of carefully edited personalities, that kind of honesty stands out instantly. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It is felt. And that feeling is what makes people trust you. Stay with me because the sixth habit is where everything comes together. Because even with integrity, there's one mindset that determines whether you grow into this version of yourself, or stay stuck trying to perfect an image. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But most people never begin. Because they're waiting to be perfect. And that's exactly what keeps them from becoming anything at all. The sixth habit is the one that quietly removes pressure from everything else. Because without it, you'll turn all of this into another performance. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say become perfect. He didn't say get everything right immediately. He said become. This sixth habit is growth over perfection. And this is where most people get stuck without realizing it. They want to be seen as confident before they feel confident. They want to appear put together before they've done the inner work. They want to get it right before they even begin. So they wait. They overthink. They hold back. Because somewhere in their mind, they believe they need to be flawless to be accepted. But perfection is a trap. It keeps you frozen. It convinces you that you're not ready. And the longer you believe that, the longer you stay invisible. But growth is different. Growth allows you to show up as you are while becoming better. It allows you to make mistakes without losing your sense of self. It allows you to be honest about where you are without pretending to be somewhere you're not. And that honesty is what people connect with. Because nobody relates to perfection. Perfection creates distance. It feels artificial. Untouchable. Unreal. But growth. Growth is human. Growth is relatable. Growth is real. When you embrace this habit, something powerful happens. You stop trying to protect your image. And you start building your character. When you make a mistake, you don't hide it. You learn from it. When someone gives you feedback, you don't defend. You consider it. When something doesn't work, you adjust. You keep moving. You keep evolving. Seneca said, "While we wait for life, life passes." And that's what perfection does. It keeps you waiting. But growth keeps you moving. And when people see that in you, they don't just respect you. They feel inspired by you. Because your presence becomes proof that change is possible. That improvement is real. That becoming is better than pretending. And that energy draws people in. Now step back for a moment. Because these 6 habits are not separate. They work together. When you listen deeply, people feel valued. When you remain calm, people feel safe. When you speak with intention, people respect you. When you face difficulty with courage, people admire you. When you live with integrity, people trust you. And when you focus on growth, people connect with you. This is how quiet magnetism is built. Not through tricks. Not through performance. But through character. Through discipline. Through presence. And here's what changes when you live this way. You stop chasing attention. And somehow, attention finds you. You stop trying to impress people. And somehow, people become impressed by you. You stop performing confidence. And you start becoming it. You walk into rooms differently. Not louder. Not more dramatic. Just more grounded. More present. More certain. And people feel it. They may not be able to explain it. But they notice. They remember. They're drawn to it. Because in a world full of noise, you became something rare. Someone real. You don't need better looks. You don't need a different personality. You don't need to force anything. You just need to practice these habits. One at a time. Start small. Maybe today, you simply listen more. Tomorrow, you pause before reacting. Then, you speak with more intention. And slowly, you build something most people never take the time to develop. A quiet, undeniable presence. Marcus Aurelius didn't master this overnight. Seneca struggled. Epictetus taught that this is a lifelong path. And that's the point. You're not trying to arrive. You're choosing to walk it. So here's your next step. If you made it this far, don't just leave with information. Make it real. Comment "real" over "perfect" below. Not for engagement but as a commitment to yourself. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Quiet Strength and turn on the bell. Because this is not motivation. This is transformation. And it happens step by step. Video by video. Habit by habit. Until one day, you don't have to try anymore. You don't have to perform. You don't have to chase. You simply are. Calm. Grounded. Magnetic. This is Stoic Quiet Strength. Power in silence.